Okay, I've got the Tarsacci out here today, and I wanted to go over a few adjustments, how to make them, what kind of a difference they make on a signal in the ground, that sort of thing. And so the first thing is ground balance. Now right now you can see I've got it set at 500, and so I wanted to show how you do a ground balance, and it's pretty simple. I mean, you can sit and pump the coil up and down, change the number until that pitch goes away, or the easiest thing I've found is that you raise the coil about 10 inches above the ground, push the ground balance button, lower it to about an inch away from the ground, and let it go. So you can see right there it jumped up to 672. Most of the time when I ground balance out here it's a little higher than that, but that should suffice. The other thing I wanted to go over was like salt balance. I probably won't be using them on this site, but I know I had questions in the beginning, I'm sure others do too, what you do to do a salt balance. So once you've ground balanced, that's the first thing you should do. Then the next thing to do is, if you have black sand, you can put it on black sand, but you would get up to the salt mode, turn it on. Right now it's at 26. Let's just put it on the preset, or the suggested preset, and you would pump the coil. So you can see here there's no change in tone. So if we were going to use the salt balance, that would be properly set. You know, in this situation, I don't think there is. I mean, there could be alkaline soils somewhere that you've got that it might work, but in this case it's not going to, so I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so it's off. Now I've got a signal here, a couple of signals that I've located with the GPX. I think it's a good idea to locate some deeper signals so that you know what they sound like. I mean, you know, how do you know what you're missing if you don't know what's down there, type of a thing. So the next thing I'm going to do when I come back is we're going to go over those signals, and we're going to make some adjustments to the Tarsacci and see how it affects the signal. And I think these are fairly deep bullets. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I think they are. What I've got this set up as ground balanced. I like mixed mode, that's what I prefer. 9 kilohertz, threshold at -2, sensitivity at 6. That's what I was running the other day. Let's see how. You know, it's pretty quiet. I am getting a little bit of chiming going on, not much though. So this is how I would run it, because I don't want to have any falsing going on. I have run it as high as -1 threshold, sensitivity 7, but the ground was drier then. So I've got this signal, was located with the GPX. Let's see what the Tarsacci does. So it's getting it. You can hear that chime on the end. It's registering in, well, for the most part, it's bouncing into the 20s, but occasionally it goes all metal. That tells me it's pretty deep. I can turn on it. Still get that chime. So now what I want to do is make some adjustments and see if it changes the signal at all. We already know salt isn't probably going to be the thing for here, but let's put it on black sand and see what happens. Okay, black sand is on. Go over this signal again. In my opinion, it's actually improved that signal. I'm getting a constant chime rather than an occasional chime. So the next thing we can do is see what effect the kilohertz, changing the kilohertz, has on it. So let's run it up to 18. We'll leave black sand on because we know that's helping. 18 kilohertz has made it a little bit worse. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum, all the way down to 6.4. Sounds good. So let's leave it on 6.4. That's improved the signal, I think. Now, the next thing you could do is sensitivity, but we know if we're going to go higher, it's going to get worse. However, what I've found, one of the things I like to do to check an iffy signal is run the threshold up a little bit. So I'm going to run it all the way to 0. You know, we know that if we're hunting, there's probably going to be falsing. You can hear it. Not often, but you can hear it. So, but if we wanted to check a deep signal, we could run the threshold up to 0 and go over the signal and see if, like if we didn't have a chime, do we have a chime now? It's made the all metal portion of the signal longer. And there is a chime on the end. Don't know if it improved that signal, that particular signal, as much, but we're not going to hunt in that mode. So let's see what happens though if we run the threshold too low. Let's say we run it clear down to, I think it goes all the way down to -9, but let's just say we think it's a little noisy. We run it down to 5, but that's not optimal setting. Let's see what that does. It's made the signal shorter. I'm still getting the chime on this particular signal though. Let's change it again and go lower. Let's go to -7. I've got no signal at all. Well, occasional chirp. So you want to run the threshold as high as you can, and in my opinion, that is the thing that affects the signal the most, the quickest. So run your threshold as high as you can. They say the preset when you get to a place is -2. I agree. If you can run it higher, great. If not, try to run it as close to that as you can. Now the next thing, I'm going to skip over disc. I haven't found one way or the other whether disc increases the depth of the machine or retards the depth, but I'm going to skip past that because I don't know much about it. If we go to sensitivity, let's run it up. It goes all the way to 9. It's another thing you could do to check a signal, but you can see I'm already getting some EMI. Just the sensitivity too high. But we could go over the signal. I mean, it improves the signal. Let's turn the sensitivity down. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's see, we gotta get it on the right setting. So let's run the sensitivity down. Say you're in a bad area and you gotta run it clear down to 4. Let's see what it does to the signal. You're getting an occasional chirp. You'll also notice that the all metal portion of the signal has been decreased. So that's another thing to do, is run the sensitivity first, then threshold second, to find the optimal settings for the conditions. So I'm going to run sensitivity back up to what I had it, which was 6. We got threshold. So tracking. Now, I know a few people have asked about tracking. I personally don't like tracking on any metal detector because I think it loses depth. But I don't know about the Tarsacci, so let's see. So to activate tracking, you just hold the TS button down and you can now see it's lit up and it's now tracking rather than going off the ground balance that says 672. Let's see what it does to the signal. Actually not bad. If you were in a place that the soil conditions were changing a lot, tracking would be worth running. But I like I said before, I personally don't like it. I like fixed. I don't see that the ground's going to change much here. I mean, it's pretty much a field that's, you know, clay. It hasn't actually been plowed for quite some time. Obviously, you can see all the brush, sagebrush growing on it now. But back in the 60s, it was farmed quite a bit. So now what we're going to do is dig that signal up and we'll see what we got. Okay, got the pinpointer in the hole. You can see its pinpointer depth. There's the item right there. I think it hit it. Yeah, I think that's probably it. And it is a fired bullet, 58 caliber. Okay, now that we know what the optimal settings are on the Tarsacci, I've got an even deeper target marked here found with the GPX. And so let's go over that target and see how the Tarsacci does with the optimal settings. I'm getting a one-way, all metal only tone. But if we got that, we could check it, remember, by running up the threshold. So let's run the threshold up to 0. Sounds better. Still not getting that chime on the end though. But that is a repeatable signal, so it would be worth digging. And it doesn't have that like sucking, I call it sucking the signal down like iron gives. It's a shorter signal. So let's dig that, see how deep it was, see if it's a bullet or what it is. Okay, I got the deeper of the two targets uncovered here. There's the pinpointer. That's probably a good 11 inches, maybe 12. Target's right there in the bottom of the hole. There it is, right there. Another fired 58. Man, that was deep. Yeah, we're talking. I mean, it's hard to get a plane on that. Let me go to the other side of the hole and show you. That is pinpointer's 9, and I mean, you can see it's below the probably 12 inches. Pretty impressive.